Hello everyone. Today we will continue to look at the Certified Kubernetes Administrator question bank. Next, we are on question 6. Question 6 is about the priority of pods. The main focus of this question is actually on editing a configuration. The requirement of this question is mainly about, first of all, asking us to create one for the user's workload. The new priority, the new POS priority is higher than the user-defined one. Now, the highest level of one day should be one value smaller. If it is a value, it should be one value smaller. Here, what we need to do is modify the deployment that is currently running in the given namespace. Then, we need to make it reference or use the new priority class that we have created. Make sure that after we set the latest priority for this deployment, it can be deployed successfully. This is our basic requirement. The key point to note is not to modify the original default deployment in the namespace. For this task, we just need to create a priority class, then apply this priority to an existing deployment. And as long as we don't change the deployment's other configurations, that's the main requirement for this question. It seems there are indeed quite a few things to pay attention to, so everyone should be careful with these details. Just make sure not to change any of its original default configurations. Now, regarding the priority, first of all, if we want to create one here, at the moment, it looks like our system already has priorities set up. Actually, priorities already exist. So let's take a look at the current state of those priorities. The current priorities are like this. We can check them using the get command. So for our current situation, what priorities do we have in the fund right now? Here you can use the type file for auto-completion. Once it's auto-completed, we can see that there are 1, 2, and 3, a total of 3 priorities. These 3 priorities are what our system currently has, especially if you look at this. The system cluster one, this is the default. This priority is a default priority, meaning that when we create the cluster, the system automatically includes it. Yes, it's included by default. The value for this is very high. These default values are all relatively high. How high? It's 2,000, no, not 2,000, it's 2 billion. A priority of 2 billion. And then this one here is user defined. This is a custom priority set by the user. So here, the main thing to pay attention to is that the question requires us to create a new priority whose value is 1 less than the existing priority. Just 1 less is enough. Now, since the unit is in billions, if we subtract 1, it becomes 999, 999, 999, 9,900,000 such a large value. So here, the first thing we need to pay attention to is this. First, you need to calculate the required priority value for this problem. It should be 9 nines in total. Don't write more and don't write fewer. If you write 1 more or 1 less, the meaning will be completely different. It must be compared to 1 billion, just 1 less is enough. When you create this value later, make sure to check it carefully. Just count the digits one by one and make sure the number is correct. That's all you need to do here. This is the value for the range hood. So now that we know the value, what's next? Now we start creating the priority. How do we create the priority? First of all, this one is also the same. Well, it's another new resource. It's another new resource. You can take a bit of time to memorize its version and type. Of course, if you don't remember, you can always look it up temporarily. But as I said before, during the exam, try to spend as much time as possible on actually typing out the specific commands and minimize the time spent searching for information. The more you remember during your regular study, the less you'll need to look up during the exam, which means you'll be faster and more confident. So it's best if everyone memorizes the resource names, version numbers, and types needed for each question. There actually aren't that many, right? Just 1 per question, right? 1 per question. And there are 16 questions in total, so at most you'd need to remember 16. For some questions, we might not even use the file creation method, so you don't need to memorize those at all. So in reality, we only need to remember a dozen or so types of these resources and their version numbers. So spending a bit more time on this is definitely not a problem. Now, let's go ahead and edit our priority setting. The file, the original priority file. All right, first, let's name our file priority. Then, after we open it for editing, the first thing is the version. the version, it's here. Each resource may have some differences in its version. The version name doesn't necessarily have to be the same as the resource type name. That's not always the case. Sometimes they're similar, but sometimes they're completely different. For example, in this case, it's actually a completely different type name. For us, this one, the original priority, the editable priority class. This word here refers to the priority class. And then here, this one above, right? It's basically completely different. So in this case, you'll need to memorize it separately. Make sure to remember it on its own. So after selecting this, next, the third and fourth ones, right? But for many special types of resources, the following part might not necessarily be detailed information. For some of them, you can actually skip the details and just write exactly what you need directly. Of course, metadata is generally always present because metadata is extremely important. As for the name, it can only be written in our metadata. So the metadata, first three fields there are basically fixed. They're set in stone. Then the fourth one can be something else. It can be detailed information, or it can be something else. You can also just write the specific value directly. That's also acceptable. As for the name here, just specify this here. That's all. Everyone, pay attention. This name is mentioned in the question. The name is present in the question, so whenever you see any configuration related to a name, regardless of what resource you're working with, make sure to check the question first. Most of the time, if the question mentions it, we need to create it. As for these resources, the question will basically always provide you with the names. So, what do we need to pay attention to here? After we finish writing the name, we then write the specific value. When writing here, we can actually omit the SPC part and directly write the specific value. And this value, well, that's our size. That is, the size of our atom is 9 nines in total. Make sure to count the quantity correctly. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So there are 9 nines in total. Alright, after writing that, next comes this part. The default value, pay attention here. The default value must be set to false. Why? Because this is our global default value, and in this case, it's custom defined. Since this is actually custom defined by us, the default value here should be set accordingly. So what should we change it to? Change it to false, set it to false. Because the question requires us to only set this one. What about priority? It applies to the specified deployment. If you set a default value here, what will happen? It will cause other ports to also use this priority. So here, if we just set it to false, it means only the one we specify will use it. For the others, they will use a system default. Didn't we just see it? There is a default value in the system, so here we set it to false, meaning it won't be used as a system default. And then, here we can add a describe. Describe is our description field. Describe is for descriptive information. As for the description here, we can... So for this, what should you write? You can write anything here. This prompt is fine. For example, earlier we said the priority is 1 less. So 1 less is good. After we finish writing here, let's save it. After saving, run it. Let's run it first. So what are we doing at this step? Please note, at this step we are creating something. What are we creating? We're creating this for ourselves. It's just the priority, nothing else, nothing more. We're not calling anything yet. This step is just to create it first. For this problem, we're mainly dividing it into 2 steps. Yes, 2 steps. The first step is to create the priority, and the second step is to let our department use this priority. So right now we're focusing on creation. After creating it, if you want to check, you can use this command to view our current priority information. 离元机 is this one. Of the class. This part is a bit long. But actually, you don't need to write it all out. Just up to class is enough. It's just that when you use the type key for auto completion, it will automatically fill in the entire name for you. See, if you look at the full name, it's actually the one inside our priority. It's not the version inside the file under priority, right? The version number in the file is attached at the end. So here we include this name. Let's take a look. All right. Let's count the digits. It has to be exactly 9 nines. No more, no less. If there are fewer than that. Then it's basically missing some. That's pretty much like you're missing 900 million. If there's one more in this priority, it's equivalent to having an extra one. 9 billion episodes. So here the discrepancy is very large. So if one is less or one is more, the difference will be very large. So everyone should pay attention here. That is, we are subtracting one from the actual basis. So it is 990 million, 9.99 million. All right, I won't read out the rest. And then here is the global setting. By default, the global setting is set to false, meaning it's not a global value. What is it then? It's just a custom value. And we will apply it to the corresponding or to an individual deployment. All right, so let's take a look at this here. After encountering this kind of pitfall in the next step, how do we go about configuring it? Actually, inside you can just use the editor. But in this case, it's like this. You can take a look at, well, as for checking, you can actually view it like this if you want, right? If you're not confident, you can check it this way. It becomes very clear. Yes, what are we comparing? We're comparing the one we just created ourselves with the default one. Well, not exactly the default, but this one, the user-defined one. Right? As long as there's one less, that's fine, right? It's just one less, no problem. Just missing one. So this is correct. The correct priority. Next, let's take a look at this. Let's modify some information in our deployment. The requirement here is for us to change the priority name in the deployment under the build section. This priority is actually the name of the namespace. It's not that priority means priority here. It's just that the name is literally priority. And then the name of the deployment is, what was the deployment called again? Let's take a look. It's called the busy box. It's also mentioned in the question. So it's a deployment for bbox. Now let's go ahead and edit it. Once we're in, the first thing is, for this question, where exactly do we configure the priority? Previously, we haven't really seen this priority setting before, right? We basically haven't encountered this priority field. So where exactly is it? Let's look further down. Scroll down. Look for it. The SPC section. It's right here, inside this section. Keep looking. Here it is. Once you find DNS policy, still our DNS policy. Easy to locate after you find it. Where do we add it? Just add it above the DS design. Pay attention to the indentation. It should be at the same level as DNS. The indentation should be at the same level as everyone else. Okay, let's add it here. Here, we need to enter the name of our priority class. What is the name of the priority class? It's the one we just specified, the one we just created ourselves. Once you've specified it, what can you do? You can simply save and exit. At this step, you can save the original. Just remember to pay attention to the indentation. The indentation is important for this part. It is actually the same level as our solvent. They belong to the same level. However, what is it not? It's not container information. Please pay attention to that. So what's the difference? Just look at the section above. Here, our template refers to the pod template. If you look further up, you'll see the SPC section, which refers to the deployment information. First of all, this file here is a deployment file. That's clear, right? In a deployment file, we have 3 pieces of information: the API version, the kind type, metadata, and then the details. Under the details section, the template, whose template is it? It's the pod template. The detailed information within the pod template, what does that mean? Basically, this section up here is actually The metadata inside the pod is used to mark our labels, and these labels are used to connect with our deployment. As for the second part, the detailed information mainly refers to whose details. It's the details of the container. Yes, it's mainly about a container, but to be precise, what is it really? Since this template is the pod's template, these details still belong to the pod's information. However, in most pods, right, most of the content is made up of container groups. So here you see the first thing listed is the container. But actually, inside, it's still essentially information about the pod. And besides the container, the pod's information also includes some content related to the container. For example, things like this is related to our container, but actually, it shouldn't be called a container. This is the priority of the pod. Or things like the restart policy, right? And also the name of the scheduler, for instance. These are all specified based on the pod. These configurations under the pod, these are some of the pod's configurations. And these pod configurations are the same level as the container, since the container is actually a part of the pod. So our priority here needs to be aligned with the container. That's the reason why we need to align them. You can write this here. If you do, it would become part of the container. But our priority here is about the pod's priority, not just the container's priority. So please pay attention to this point. All right, after specifying this here, let's save it. What do we do after saving? All right, as long as it saves successfully, it means your syntax is correct. The main thing is to check and make sure you didn't make any mistakes in the configuration. So next, let's take a look at this. Let's check out some detailed information. We can see that the current status of our deployment is like this. And then for more specific status details, we can also take a look. For the specific pod status, we can just use get pod. Just run get pod. Let's filter it. The information for Bitbox. All right, here we've already filtered it out. You don't need to filter too much. Just type a couple of letters and you should be able to see it. The one that just started up is fine. It's already been reconfigured. As long as it's in the running state here, that's okay. That means it's normal. Here, just pay attention to this name. The main thing is to watch out for the name. When we were editing the content just now, just make sure you don't write the wrong name when calling it. Where did it go? Let me see. It's under template. Right here, correct? Then it will automatically adjust its position. Of course, the position here isn't really that important. You see, we originally wrote it above, but after saving, it automatically moved it below. This doesn't really matter as long as you make sure the name is correct. Everything will work fine. So that's our sixth question about adjusting priority levels. Here, we have two steps. First, create the original priority level. Second, apply or assign the priority level we've created to this existing deployment. You must not change other configurations of the deployment. When making changes here, it's not that anyone would do it on purpose, but just be careful not to accidentally delete something or make unintended changes when editing the file. So pay attention to this. All right, if that's all set, then there shouldn't be any issues. This completes the priority configuration for our sixth question. Once you finish configuring, remember to exit. Don't forget to exit. After you exit, you can enter again for the next question. Just start with a new topic. All right, that's our sixth question. If you need the complete question bank, you can leave a comment below and get the most reliable question bank at the best price. That's all for today, everyone. Bye-bye.